Content warning. There are some sensitive topics about death, suicide, bullying, online harassment, and topics around the behavior of a couple of other content creators by the name of Katie Joy, Without a Crystal Ball, and Colleen Ballinger. I also swear in this a little bit, so please be advised if any of these things are triggering for you. Please feel free to step out and come back at another time. I just want you to be well and taking care of yourself. Hi, everybody. I'm Elise as Another Truth on YouTube. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I do appreciate the time that you have taken to listen to another video of mine. I hope that this weekend has been restful and recuperative and that you're starting your week off on the right start, or you will start it off on the right foot. So it seems like the medication is helping. I won't know for a few days. My voice is still a little off. For me, it's not where it should be, but at least I'm not gasping for air. I'm not having difficulty with breathing. I don't feel heavy in my chest, and I am remembering to take deep breaths and so on to be able to get my lungs used to doing what it did. But the medication I have should take care of the infection and the asthma and everything else. So you might hear some noise in the background. I do have my air filtration system on. We are replacing it this spring for sure, because I think this one has tired out. It helped us a lot through the pandemic and so on, but we need a better system that's a little quieter. And I have my trusty tumbler full of ice cold water that I enjoy, that really helps me to get hydrated, to feel better, and to clear my voice. So I'm going to talk about a few things. Hopefully I can get through it without coughing or feeling exhausted. Is anybody else of Irish descent making boiled dinners or celebrating their heritage in any way? I'm partially Irish. I have partial Irish descension. I have traced that part of my family history, and only because it was easier to trace. So we are essentially an earlier Massachusetts family, at least that side of it. I didn't realize it. Now, there were some other, I'm also of English descent, I found out as well. So I traced that back even further, of course, because of the wave of immigration in the United States, or not the United States, to the colonies and then the United States. There were stages and patterns, so it fit well with that. Now, there were some interesting aspects of it that shocked the shit out of me. That's something I can't reveal here now. It's something that I have to speak with some people about, because I think it's appropriate to do so. I have spoken to my children about it and my best friend. But there are other aspects of it that they're pretty interesting, that it's not so shocking, just people living their lives and stuff. Massachusetts was the first colony, I guess I would say maybe legalize or to enforce slavery. So enslaved people came in all forms in Massachusetts, and indentured servitude was part of that. So make no mistake about it, up until the Revolutionary War, we had slavery in Massachusetts from its in and around its inception as a colony. Another thing that a lot of people don't talk about is like the enslavement of indigenous peoples. There are a lot of myths around that. I mean, it just doesn't get talked about. This might not be the channel for it, but it's sometimes having hard conversations about these things. People don't want to face it. Now, there are many reasons why Massachusetts is a better place for me to live, and I've stated that before. Um, but there are things that have to be mended, repaired, um, straightened out, fixed, worked on, being honest about all those things. And I mean, even a lot of people on my side of the fence and perspectives, not people close to me necessarily, but people who share some of my ideologies, don't want to have those difficult conversations. So one day I'll do a video about that, because I think it's important, to be honest and frank about some things. So yeah, I mean, that's it. But I'm, going back to the present here, being grateful for my life, being grateful I have access to medical care and stuff, and a lot of things, because there's a lot of shit going on in the world. Oh, it's just heartbreaking and upsetting. And, I fight with myself a lot because I want to do more meaningful work on here, but then at the same time, it's just easier to talk about tea stuff because it's just easier to have a distraction and deal with the reality of things, of course. But the thing is, some of the discussions on here and coming from other content creators, there are serious issues. And I think that um, I'm going to dive into the Katie Joy stuff a little bit. And what I said before about Massachusetts really doesn't connect with Katie Joy. It's just kind of bringing up my thoughts about something and then deciding to go to the next. So the thing with Katie Joy stuff is that it seems on this platform, it is on this platform, that there are people who tend to get away with things more than others. And, Katie Joy might be able to skirt around the community standards just by an inch of being banned, by reframing certain phrases and words in the way that she does things and justifies it. Nothing of what she states about people's suicides in her latest um, chain of videos, none of it has anything to do with bringing awareness to the issue that is really of any meaning whatsoever. And I think it's appalling that she has been allowed to exploit this family's tragedy, this particular event, even getting things wrong, even lying about some things, even exploiting it for cash, scam, whatever. I think it should be looked into by higher entities who might need to look into that. Because, to be honest, YouTube doesn't even follow its own standards for these certain individuals. I think YT YouTube um, is probably defending itself against possible litigation. I mean, this is not a free speech operation, obviously. This is more of a freedom of expression. But there are rules and standards in place, especially around this topic, where people are still vilified still exploited, still shamed for dying by suicide. And I think that it's disgusting that Katie Joy is one of many doing that, especially for profit. And this is the one time I'm going to say that a broader legal entity of some sort needs to step in and look at what YouTube is doing as a whole, because it's not just Katie Joy doing this, it's Colleen Ballinger, who has also groomed a number of children and young adults through her shows that are aired on YouTube. Her apparent racism on there, and a lot of other civil rights abuses. And she gets to stay on and, feign the messy, sloppy hair and the sloppy life, the sloppy mom life. And mom life isn't sloppy. You have to have a very good operation on when you're raising your kids. I mean, that's organizational skills. That's, people like underrate being a full-time mom. Let's say, I'm not saying Colleen Ballinger is, but being a full-time mom, it means keeping everything together, organizing children's education, activities, whatever. And it's hard work. It's very much hard work. And of course, working moms who have to leave their children with somebody else for 10 hours a day, they have that, and they have the job of taking care of their families, making sure things are organized, making sure there's a schedule, making sure everybody's emotional needs are met, physical needs met in terms of hygiene and food preparation and all of that. All of us who've been a mother have experienced that. But with Colleen Ballinger, it's just like, you know, she's another one who uses her kids to kind of make herself appear more like some kind of a pearl, somebody special, somebody who should be immune from taking responsibility, from hurting other people's children, and ruining other people's lives. And I think Katie Joy does that same thing when she uses her son as a shield to deflect away from the criticisms. None of what Katie Joy does at this point is helpful or brings awareness or anything like that whatsoever. Her aim is to, um, who was it? Was it Renell Smith, who aptly showed the Katie Joy trauma vulture? I have another word for that, but I can't use it on here. First of all, it's very sexist, and I don't think that that's a good thing to say or even have in my mind. But it also goes against community standards in that regard. But she's a trauma something else, and I personally think that she gets some kind of thrill out of ruining people's lives. So it seems like YouTube's not doing its job, and then individual creators are taking that step to stop this. And this has nothing to do with hate against Katie. This has to do with vulnerable people being hurt. And I believe that's what they're advocating for. A lot of us have had experiences around that, and we understand and we know how it can hurt families. It's something that uh, doesn't heal right away or even at all. So one of these days, Katie Joy will receive her comeuppance in a way that is legal and ethical, and because her behavior is atrocious, and it's Some people claim it ended up getting somebody killed. I'm not sure about that, but if it's not now, it will be in the future. She's already done a lot to hurt people's lives. And of course, Colleen Ballinger as well, among the rest of the reprobates that rot on here, who've disappeared for a few months or a year and then come back thinking that, whatever. So, all right, enough about that. Now, I did bring up the Gremlin thing yesterday, and I wanted to clear up something that, you know, the Gremlins that I know from 1984 movie Gremlins. So the particular Gremlins, once Stripe was a naughty boy. But it really showed the lack of the lack of human regard and respect for certain things that really showed net consequences, the negligence. Now Stripe did eat that cord to that clock, and people probably, the kids probably didn't think much of it. Oh, it's still that time. But it didn't occur to them the damage it might have caused. I mean, they were kids. And I think, though, that the responsibility kind of fell back on the parents on that, or the father a little bit, for trying to get his kid the most exciting thing to have without really understanding the consequences or finding out more. And that's an unfortunate thing. And so it spawned off these things. So you have one leader and then you have a bunch of minions. Now, Stripe never really cared for the people he led. I don't know if he actually cared about the people. I mean, there's a lot of pretending that goes on. You see that in human groups, friendship dynamics a lot. There's always like a leader, and then there are the minions that follow, and the leader doesn't care as long as they're getting all the attention and they're causing the problems in the area or in the problems with other people. I mean, even when it comes down to being responsible for murdering people, I mean, he didn't care if his minions died and faced consequences as a result of it. And that's what happens. It's the same thing, like, say, for instance, um, the Colleen Ballinger situation, when a lot of her stands were threatening victims. And they probably still are being threatened, but I don't know enough about that. So, unfortunately, Colleen Ballinger didn't care. She just put one line in there about don't harass anybody or something, but she never stated anything in her videos on behalf of them, on behalf of her victims. At least have the human decency to do so, because she doesn't care. It's all about the attention on that one person who's doing that leading. And they always find scapegoats for their bad behavior. They massively project. And they look, as much as they look like in their proverbial hearts, which are impure, ugly, gross, shit that the cat dragged in, usually. And that's unfortunate, but that's what happens. So I was just thinking about that in terms of a number of things, more in generalities, but also there's that gremlin in our head, or those things that we tell ourselves where we're not good enough to do anything. We're not deserving of this, even people who have had a history of being bullied, or they're being harassed online and stuff. I mean, it does wear down one person's drive. And when you have it coming from all ends, I can empathize a lot. And so you have this inner voice, whether it's something psychological, organic, psychological, or it's usually the stuff people tell us along the way. And, we can kind of see through the bullshit when we're young, and sometimes some of us over time just stop caring because we're just trying to survive. We learn maladaptive coping mechanisms and we try to block that out. Now, I'm not a professional or anything. I'm just a person who's been through it. One person with one set of experiences. But I refuse to let that fucking gremlin, the proverbial gremlin in my mind, tell me I'm worthless. I'm worth it. I deserve um, to experience life. I deserve to live in peace without being harassed or have my privacy trampled on. I deserve, to educate myself, to better myself. It might take me longer to better myself. I deserve to have these things. But I keep telling myself in my mind that no, you don't. But I'm not going to listen to that. So if I'm not listening to that, I'm not going to listen to other people who tell me that, because in life, there are always going to be disagreements. There are always going to be people who don't like us. It's just when people sometimes, and I'm speaking in general, take things overboard, then you have to act. Then there's a time to act, whether you involve law enforcement, you involve other authorities, or you have to bring something to a manager's attention, whatever it is. But those inner thoughts, those thoughts that stop us from becoming who we should become. And I think that dealing with that, working through that, is the best thing, because then one is able to deal with the other nonsense. But I know that being on here on YouTube, not for me personally, um, I know that there are some eyes on this that shouldn't be on this, but at the same time, I'm going to continue to express myself. I may not have the freedom to speak. I don't have the free speech privilege on here. Okay, but I do have that freedom of expression. So that is what I will continue to do on here. And I expect you to do the same thing. And I expect you to love yourselves and to take care of yourselves. And even if you're not considered a good person, you deserve to have um, you deserve to feel good about yourself. Be happy. Be productive in a way that is suitable for you. Getting mental health help is great. I know some people are just impervious to that. There's nothing we can do about it. I understand it's a lot more complicated, but people do deserve to have access to those things so that they can really feel good about themselves in a way that is authentic, that they can be their authentic selves without having to try to mask a lot of insecurity, because that's painful. That is painful, and it impacts the way one thinks and works, and also it impacts health. That's just it for that. And the next thing is, I guess, the royals. I haven't seen anything. I've only seen secondhand talk and rumors. Some people have claimed they saw the princess. Um, they've spotted her. I don't know. I don't think so. And it's rumored that Prince William has taken time off. So if it's indeed, Princess Catherine is supposed to return around Easter. Piers Morgan said the middle of April, Easter in the United States, anyways, until the end of the month. So however is celebrated. So I guess the April 15th deadline is near. So I guess we'll see what happens then. Um, and who knows? There has to be some level of accountability. There has to be some kind of presser on this. And they said that if there was something serious, there would be some kind of word, not presser, but word about it. But this thing is like shrouded in a lot of secrecy and mystery. There's just some weird nonsense going on. But at the same time, you know, um, there doesn't seem to be any functional monarchy at this point, no heads, really heads of monarchy at work because of illness and taking time to do things. And I understand that. So we'll see. I mean, a month is about just around Easter time, around the time that was spoken. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what actually happens with that. I mean, that's far less important in my eyes than what's going on in the Middle East and what's going on here at home in America, and even for me locally, what's going on. There's some shit going on. Oh my God. So not with me directly, but some um, social crisis going on, and I was really shocked when I heard about it. There was a few things going on. I was shocked as a resident here, very shocked. But you know what, though? My state as a whole was no better than when it started out as a colony. Was no better than anybody else, and we have perpetuated the same kind of thinking, um, where people should remain separate and that people aren't getting what they're supposed to need. So when they say our state is the best, it's bullshit. It might be better in some aspects, and I can say that, but we have a long way to go.